Okay, we're back in the barn. It's chilly in here, so I'm keeping my toque on. But I have a really fun craft idea today. It is kind of a throwback, something that you may not have done in a long time, decoupage. It is something that I love the look of, but just recently in the last year or two, I've noticed that a lot of luxury home goods stores are carrying decoupage platters, plates, cups, vases, and it got me thinking that would be a really fun DIY to recreate as well. So we're going to give it a shot. I actually did something earlier, so just using a very simple IKEA glass vase. Within honestly 30 minutes, turned it into something that was really unique and decorative. And it just goes to show how you can transform a piece. So I'm going to show you today how to do that, what materials you need, and it should be a lot of fun. So decoupage is an art form that goes back centuries. They know for sure that it came to Europe in the 17th century, and it really was a way of taking art that was already on paper and pasting it to pieces of furniture so that it didn't require hand painting on every piece. When it made it to Italy, Venetian artists loved it, and before you knew it, it was a really common way of decorating furniture. Slowly that transitioned into more decorative pieces, and now it can be used for very mainstream, everyday things. I'm going to show you how to decoupage a glass water carafe. I think this would be a really fun way to personalize this, but you can also use a flat glass tray, any sort of a vase, even just a little votive cup. So the sky's the limit with decoupage, and it's really about having a bit of imagination and some basic tools. There are only a few materials that you're going to need for your decoupage. The first is some sort of an adhesive. So this is going to be the base for your piece of paper or fabric, and then it's also going to seal it. I like using Mod Podge. It's easy to purchase at a craft store, and it comes in a variety of finishes. So you can actually get ones that are glossy, matte, dishwasher safe. So depending on the piece and the look that you're after, you can really change up the look of your decoupage. You also need a great brush to apply it with. And when I say great brush, I mean the cheapy foam or something that has a bristle, whatever your preference is. I actually like using the foam. You just have to make sure that you get as many of those bubbles out as possible. Then of course, you're gonna need your glass piece. Make sure that it's as clean as possible. The best thing to do is to use rubbing alcohol and give it a good wipe down, or Windex, but you want to make sure that it's fully dried and clean of any oils or liquids before you start the process. And then the most creative part of this is, of course, choosing what you're going to adhere on. So really, the traditional method is using paper. I've seen people take the top layer of a napkin, a decorative napkin, and use that as the pattern. Or you can cut out little pieces of, let's say, a greeting card or something that you've saved from a magazine and use that for your piece. Because I'm a designer, I have a number of samples from wall covering and fabric that would be beautiful for this application. For example, something like this is a wall covering sample. I think you could cut out each dandelion and that would make such a lovely, whimsical little detail on a piece of glass. If you are thinking about using fabric for your decoupage, there are a couple of things to look for. So first, you want something that doesn't have a pile. So things like velvet or mohair, they're gonna absorb too much of the glue and not seal very easily. So you wanna keep to something that's quite flat. I like using cotton. This is a block printed cotton that would make a beautiful decoupage project. And essentially, you just wanna make sure that you are applying enough glue to a fabric surface. So a little bit heavier handed than you would with a paper project. Okay, let's get started. You may want to protect the surface that you're working on. Here, I'm not too worried about it, so that's fine. For today, I'm going to use the gloss finish Mod Podge, and I think it's just the right look for a bottle. You know, a little bit of sheen is a nice detail. If you want something to be really glossy, you might need to apply multiple coats of sealer at the end, but 1 or 2 coats of this and it won't be too shiny. So take a look at the surface that you're working with. This of course has a little bit of detail on it, so I want to avoid those areas when I'm applying the paper. I found these great graphics that I thought I would look at adding. The first one is this, it's actually a Fornasetti wall covering, and it's just a sample image of what that pattern is, so it's not to scale, but I loved that it had this beautiful lemon design, and I thought that would be a really fun detail if you wanted to show people that this was citrus flavored water. Or with this wall covering here, I actually just cut out this ribbon here of this block print, and coincidentally it's the perfect size to create a bit of a border around the perimeter of this bottle. So I think that would be a really lovely detail, and certainly feels like a bit of a ribbon wrapped around this bottle. So let's try this one today. So the first thing that you want to do is lay your piece down, and only on the areas that you're going to be applying your paper, apply a fairly generous coating of your glue. It's okay if you go a little past the area. It will dry clear, so you don't have to worry about that, but you do certainly want to make sure that it sticks. Take one more look here at your design, make sure you have it oriented the right way. And I mean, try your best to keep it straight here. I may discover at the end that I've got it slightly askew, but it should be good. Wrap it around, adjust it to straighten, and I'd say it's pretty good. Now I'm actually going to let this dry, and then I'll trim off that excess. If you're using paper on the outside edge of a plate, for example, you can actually use a nail file or a sanding block to trim the edge, and that will very gently just break the paper off of the edge rather than trying to cut it afterwards, because it's hard to sometimes get a smooth edge on a glass plate. You're going to want to allow this at least an hour or two to dry, make sure that it's fully set. And if there is any sort of a smudge here, I'll wipe this off now, but otherwise it should all dry clear, and then we can put a sealing coat on it and we'll be done. Okay, it's been a couple of hours. This bottle should be fully dry. It looks good. And now all I need to do is apply the sealer as a top coat. You can see just how quickly this comes together. Like it would be such a fun craft to do with kids, and you could personalize things. It's just, it's a very old world technique, but I think it has the potential to really customize things, and it's with materials that you typically have around the house anyways. So again, you're going to want to let this dry for about an hour or two until that sealing coat has fully set. These sealers don't typically cure in the first 24 or 48 hours. You want to let them cure for several days before you actually use them. Certainly before you'd put anything in the dishwasher if you use the dishwasher safe Mod Podge. But I love the look of it, and I'll show you again this piece here. So we have the acrylic paint on the interior. I've used that gloss finish on this paper here on the outside, and now you have a beautiful vase, or in a smaller scale it would be great for pens on your desk. It could be for a candle inside. So it's just really fun to be creative. Again, use things that you have around the house as far as the vessel and the paper, and just have fun, be creative. It is an old art form, but I think it certainly has a lot of relevance in our decorating today.